Oh, that looks good. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. It was a loose cable. The tech gremlins have been at it again. This was working 100% fine last night. Okay, let's do a quick mic check actually, because we've got a noise gate up now, so hopefully we don't get too many airplane or construction noises. So if I'm basically eating the mic, everything sounds good. And if I'm over here, can you still hear me okay? Oh, testing, testing. Just let me know if everything sounds good. Okay, awesome. So welcome, welcome everybody. I had just done a roll call to welcome everybody. I'll go ahead and do that again. Welcome Alaska Jeff, Chrysanth, Cajun Corey. Welcome, welcome. Michaela-ish. Thank you for being here. Hope you drive safe. Home from work. Juno Fury. Nice to see you guys again. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, but here I am. It's been about a year. A lot has changed. Most stuff has not changed, but we're still here every day, drawing and creating and enjoying ourselves and each other's company. So, yeah, it's really, really great to be back. Today we're going to be talking about and drawing for the Legend Seeker book cover 2, which you guys have probably seen like a little bit of a sneak preview of, but I'm just going to show you guys what we've been working on today. And we've got some doodles here. Today is going to be kind of just a drawing day. I figured we could hang out and maybe do some like research type sketches. So far in the last couple of weeks, I have been working with Erudia to decide on the rough for the cover for like like what we basically want it to look like. So I'm gonna show you guys two options that I created, and then which one we went with, and then I think today we'll just figure out, like, what we can explore a little further. So yeah. Okay, so here's a cool page for you guys. You guys see that okay? So here I've got these are the roughs that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. I did a couple of more sketches, like little doodles besides this, but once the idea started to kind of take shape, I came here. This is a I slapped down a bunch of acrylic. This is all acrylic. I can also do it. I also like to do these roughs on my iPad on Procreate if I'm just kind of on the go. But lately I've been really into the acrylic, doing traditional style thumbnailing. So we have here, these are the two final concepts that I talked with Erudia about. And here it was kind of something similar, but I was playing around with the lighting, trying to figure out the time of day, and stuff like that. So with this cover, there was a lot that it had to have. The narrative here is that the adventurers are approaching Viridithra, or the island where Viridithra is sleeping. And she's huge, and she is on an island that has this tree that's really huge. And there's little kerfluffle or little commotion in the foreground where they make a noise. They're not, you got to be quiet when you approach a sleeping dragon, or else she's going to wake up and eat you. But unfortunately, these adventurers were not quiet because they startled some Rudy Poos. And the Rudy Poos, I here have a habit of juicing on or shooting noxious slime or whatever it is on the people or animals that they're frightened of. So that's what's happening in this scene. I was trying to capture a couple of different moments. A moment of like surprise on the part of the Rudy Poos, dismay on the part of the unfortunate adventurer who got juiced, and then in the background, Viridithra, hearing all of this commotion, is waking up, and one of the adventurers is like, "Shut up, shut up!" Like, she's waking up, shut up. So all of this had to be in the image, and it's not necessarily, it's not easy balancing all those things and also getting a good image, because it's a lot of stuff to balance, and at the same time having everything be in good composition, having it work as an image on the right, because this is a wraparound cover, and also having it work as an image on the left, and having it work together as a cover. So that can be really challenging. A lot of the requirements kind of necessitate where things are going to go. So, for example, like the adventurers have to be on the cover, and Viridithra also kind of needs to be on the front cover. We're going to have a logo here. We're going to have text here. So nothing important can really happen in this area, in these areas. It has to be a little bit featureless so that text can go over it. So yeah, what I created for Erudia, for you guys, actually, for everybody, we basically had two different scenes And one was a mountaintop, where the adventurers, the way I pictured them, there had to be a moment where they kind of came upon these creatures very suddenly, enough to startle them, because the the creatures, the broody poos, are very sensitive to noise. So in this scene, I had the adventurers, they had just done a bit of rock climbing and just climbed over the ledge and startled the animals that were there. And in this version, I had the adventurers on a boat, and they are kind of gliding down this fjord. You can see here the cliffs on either side. And I thought that those would both be good ways to indicate that there was an element of surprise here. The adventurers were kind of quiet, and then they came upon this scene very suddenly. Um, and the broody poos, I asked Erudia, like, are these creatures, like, do they live in water? Are they amphibious? And he assured me that they were. So I thought, okay, that this is gonna, I think that this is gonna work. So, yeah. So these are both options, and the one we ended up going with was actually this one, which I was really excited about, because if you've ever seen images of Norwegian fjords, they are they're gorgeous, and they can be kind of haunting and grand and majestic, and I'm really excited to paint something like that. So we're going with this cover. This is the one we're going to be doing, and in addition to that, I get to paint a boat. I get to paint adventures on a boat, which I haven't done yet. I haven't done boats. So maybe today we'll do some sketches of boats. We'll do some sketches of I'll pull up my fjords, my images of fjords. We can maybe look at that. Maybe we can, I don't know, do some sketches of this giant tree, what this is going to look like. I have it in mind that because this tree is in the background and it's giant, and we're not used to seeing trees this big, we're gonna have to put something for size comparison next to it, so that it's an instant read, and okay, this is a giant tree in the background and not just like some weird wonky tree painted, out of perspective. So I'm thinking about putting like little castle ruins underneath it, so that you can tell that, okay, that's a building, and okay, the dragon really is that big, the tree really is that big, this thing really is that far away. All right, Chad. Rudy poos, yes, Alaska Jeff. Rudy poos are a disgusting. Chris Ann says, Jeff, don't ask, but I feel the need to elaborate, because we're going to be painting these things. So in the Legend Seeker world, Rudy poos are a small beagle-like creature, beagle-sized creature, I should say. They look a little bit like a cross between a naked mole rat and, I don't know, a chicken. They're very naked mole rat like, and they are social skittish creatures, and when they are threatened, they blast a foul smelling sludge or slime from the backs, from these like volcano looking things on their backs. Apparently they're really disgusting. I was kind of actually imagining in both of these. I don't know if you can see in this image here. I was kind of gonna go for like an ugly cute vibe, like a scared pug. If you guys ever seen pictures of scared pugs, I wanted to give them a little bit of that personality. So yeah, we'll see how ugly cute we can make them. Goo is like Blue Crescent says, that causes difficult terrain and is tough to cross. Exactly. Thank you, Crescent. Is it also stinky, Crescent? I had the sense that it was disgusting. Um, you know, you don't want to be covered in it. So actually, one of the things that our characters are reacting to, you know, he just got slimed, and he's kind of like, oh, you little shit, you know, like, and he's really pissed at the Rudy Poo and is like, I'm gonna get you, and then this guy is like, no, like, you know, this guy is like, hold me back, and then this one is like, quit it, like we have a mission. I'm not entirely sure which of the characters it's gonna be. Gonna be doing this, but that's kind of like the general scene. So there's a lot of action here. While this guy in the back, while one of the adventurers is like, shut up, you're waking the dragon. Yeah. All right. So here we have. I'm gonna keep this image kind of tucked up here. You guys can't see it, but I can pull it down anytime. We'll see if it stays there. This is one of my doodle pages when I was trying to figure out even for the rough, the positioning of the characters. I'll kind of just make a bunch of these little doodles to see what's gonna work and what's not. And this is all gonna change. It's subject to change because later on I have to actually do the positioning of the characters, and I'll use some models and do a little photography so I can get that right. But I figured out I went with something like this. So let's get a new piece of paper. Let's figure out what we're going to draw first. I've got my handy dandy pencils with me. I've got a couple different ones. So when I start out sketching, I like to start out with light pencils. So I've got here Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencils. And they're pretty good. You know, they're pretty good. I like them a lot. There are really like fancier pencils out there I want to order and acquire, but I live in Thailand and it's harder to get certain art supplies here than in the US. So this is what I got, and they're pretty good. I like to start out with you guys might notice there are letters here, and these indicate the hardness of the pencil. So the hardest pencils and the lightest are the H's, and it goes all the way from, I don't know, maybe like 6H all the way to H. And the higher the number, so like 6H is really, really light, and the lead is very, very hard. And then you'll go down to HB, which is kind of somewhere in the middle. And then you start with the B's, which are, I actually don't know what it stands for. Is it bold? And that goes all the way to like 6B. So the higher the number there, the softer the lead, and the smudgier it's going to be. So when I'm drawing, especially when I'm sketching, I really just tend to use only a couple. I will use the 3H, so something really light, so I can just get like a bunch of marks on there, and it's just kind of the impression of things. And then I have the HB, which is darker, and then I can start filling out my forms and my shapes. And then I will, when I'm doing the drawing, when I'm actually doing the pencil drawing and I'm trying to get in shadow shapes, I will use a darker one. So I'll maybe like a 3B or a 4B to get in those shadow shapes. I'll show you guys what I mean. So let's see. Do you guys have any requests for what we should draw today? I was thinking maybe we can sketch out the dragon. We can maybe figure out the tree. We can draw a boat. Boats are fun. I like boats. I'll get some, I'll get a couple of different references. I've got a picture of Veridithra pulled up on my computer. Oh, Alaska Jeff says dragon. Dragon. Okay, excellent. So, good call, Alaska Jeff. Dragons are crowd pleasers. um, Actually, I think it would be really cool if I kind of sketched out that entire back island scene because I really want to figure out how everything is going to work together. And I have a couple of references to show exactly how big Veridithra is compared to everything else. So I want to make sure I get that right while also making her big enough in the background to seem scary and imposing. All right. I have this paper here to, in case I have a lot of smudging that I need to avoid. So let's see. Tell me if you guys can see that. All right, you guys can see that. That's pretty good. These are the light pencils. So this stage is kind of like the visualization stage for the painting. This will ultimately be a painting, but before we do the painting, we have to start with a drawing. So and before we do the drawing, I have to figure out every part of the drawing on paper. Because generally the more I draw something, the better it turns out. So if I'm really not sure about what something is going to look like, then I'll just draw it over and over again until it feels right. And then I had kind of an idea that this would be kind of a hill. And then the description said that Veridithra is so huge and she kind of looks like she's part of the mountain, or she kind of looks like she's part of the island. So when she wakes up, it looks like part of the island is actually moving. Right now I'm just drawing shapes. So one thing I'm going to figure out is I want to figure out exactly how she looks like she's coming out of the mountain, and maybe her pose and gesture a little bit. I'm just going to do really like basic shapes for now. And this tree, it would be really cool to figure out this tree. Maybe we can find a reference for a tree that looks good. Maybe like, I don't know. I gotta like, what are some nice looking tree shapes? We have willow trees. Willow trees are pretty cool, but they have these leaves and branches that kind of go like that, right? So the shape of tree, I think, actually really matters. Because this is supposed to be a magical tree. Chrysanth says she is big ancient dragon. She is a big girl. She's a big girl. All right, so that's what we have so far. I think we're going to try to figure out her sleeping pose. So here's her body, and here's her neck. This is like the cutaway view, so the mountain would kind of be like this. She's tucked up behind the mountain is what I'm envisioning, or behind this hill. And maybe she's got these like little claws that were kind of like this. You know, they were kind of cross-armed like a cat sleeping. I like the idea about there being something kind of feline about this lady dragon. I'm gonna scroll back to my reference of Viridithra. So I think she's gonna be like that. This is going to be in the background, and it's going to be far less detailed than any of the other characters. So I don't have to worry too much about the detail, but I do want to get the pose and the sizing right. Now I'm working from the reference image I was given. I'm going to draw her face. She's got these horns here. Oh, this is a little bit low. Let me pull this up a bit. You guys can see that. And even though I have the reference image for this, it helps me to draw it again so that I can kind of like feel her shapes when I'm sketching her out. So right now with this 3H, I'm really just kind of doing the gestures. I'm trying to get the movements of where things are on her body, where things are like kind of very roughly, and then I'll go in with the HB. She's got some spikes that kind of come out like that, and a big old neck. Big old neck. I don't know if you guys can tell I'm from the South, or I'm not from the South. I lived in the South for a long time, so sometimes it just slips out. This girl got her a big old neck. I'm actually from Miami, But my Miami accent doesn't come out unless I'm inebriated. And even then, it's pretty long buried. Okay, so we have, she's got a center line here. She's got some eyes. Let me zoom in on this. She's got a nose, nostril here, some spikes here. Why, yes, Erudia. I spent a long time in Gainesville, Florida. I don't think they actually talk like that, but you know, they're. I knew a lot of Southern people. It's one of my favorite accents. Mm-hmm. And she's also got, like Erudia said, she's also got some moss hanging off of her, scales because she's kind of grown into the landscape a little bit. All right, so we've got a gesture there. Let's see if we can give her a little bit more. Fill in her shape a little bit more. She's got some like dragony eyebrows. Because she's kind of a nature dragon, I almost imagine the plates, like the scales on her, almost being a bit stony. I mean, where she's an emerald dragon, right? So they're crystal. She's going to be crystalline, isn't she? Michaela, Southern is easy to slip into, and it's really fun. So she's an emerald dragon. So I think we almost want to have. I mean, we're probably not going to be able to see this level of detail because of where she is in the painting, but she's going to have these kind of crystalline shapes on her. So maybe I can incorporate that a bit into the drawing. You know, I'm going to pull up some images of crystals so I can sketch those out. Let's see. Let's do emerald crystals. Let's see what that pulls up. Cool. So we have some, just on the side here. Very important to look at reference, everybody. Because what you think something looks like is not how it looks. Good reference is the difference between a convincing image and a not convincing image. So I'm actually just like sketching out an emerald crystal here. And this is kind of my process when I'm trying to think through things. I think, well, okay, I don't want it to look like that, but how does that look? Okay, let's draw that. And then later, and then there's another aspect, and I'm like, well, how does that look? Let's draw that. And then maybe I can try to combine the two. So these emerald crystals are kind of blunt. There's another image of emerald crystals that I'm looking at where the crystals kind of grow out in this kind of like a radial pattern almost. They grow from a center point. And they're kind of not circular at the top, but round. This is pretty cool. I'm not into crystals, but if anybody is, do you think being near a crystal dragon would give you good vibrations? I don't know. I mean, she'd definitely give you vibrations. She's like massive. She'd vibrate the ground as she ran toward you to eat you. Yes, Chrysanth. This is kind of a leftover from art school, and it's one of the reasons why I find it so difficult to sketch digitally. Because with the digital styluses, you really can't get anything slight. You can get light marks, but for some reason for me, it's I don't know, there's that muscle memory, and when I'm trying to trace a shape, tracing it changes the position of my hand so that I actually feel it in my brain, if that makes sense. And that process is just a lot clunkier with the stylus. I can't do it. So it's the reason why I do pencil drawings. Even if I do a digital painting, I always do pencil drawings before. So I can't do it any other way. I've tried. And she's gonna like, and then these crystals are kind of like that. It's fun when I'm kind of noodling around like this. Sometimes I'll just go on tangents, you know? Like I started out, let's draw the island. And then it's like, okay, well, let's focus on the dragon. And I was like, now let's draw emerald crystal. This is fun. And I kind of just do this until I feel like every part of the image has been addressed somehow in my brain. And I feel confident in doing the big image. All right. Anyway, let's get back to the dragon. It could be cool. It could be really cool. I don't know. Like, what if she's got some like? Let's go back to the dragon. Now that I've done that, so she's got these scales that come out like this, right? But wouldn't it be fun if some of those scales were like these emerald growths, these radial kind of projections? And here and then there's like a crystal and it's got that shape. You know what I mean? I think that could be really fun. Then she would really look like, like there was kind of an organic, like rocky quality about her. And so it's fun. I don't know, it's fun thinking about how to combine those elements. Like how much of this can you do while still, making her scales look like scales? they're gonna be coming out like that. Right? And she's got these like massive horns like this, right? But maybe we can make those look cool too. All right. I'm gonna go in with my HB. Let's just give her a little bit more. Let's give you a little bit more detail before we move on to sketching something else. And I'm not sure about these horns yet. I'm not gonna draw those in. Sometimes if I'm just not sure about something, I don't touch it. And then later when I'm drawing something else, I'll get an idea for that. Kind of visualizing this. These muscles in the neck are kind of going out like that. She's got these like really strong. These muscles in the neck are kind of going out like that. She's got these like really strong neck muscles. And I'm going to try to visualize like what's underneath that. Be helpful. It would be helpful to look at a creature like a giraffe or something else with a long neck, so you could see exactly how those muscles and tendons attach. And her clavicle would be down here, so she'd have like a bone like this and like this, right? And her rib cage would be like that, and her shoulder joint would be kind of pop in there somewhere, right? So I'm not gonna go that far, but it's fun thinking about the anatomy. So I like that. And it's totally okay to let those layers build up. I think for a lot of people when they're doing pencil drawings, like they want to get a very clean drawing at the very end. So they're afraid, to have these little lines here, but I don't worry about that. Because when you build it up and build it up, it actually looks really good. I've got this is not a Legend Secret image, but I'll show you guys. This is another piece that I was working on, so I could show you the difference. So I started this drawing out. This is a personal piece. I started this drawing out exactly like this one, and then I just draw on top, and I draw on top, and I draw on top, and the end result looks really cool, and you can still see all the little beginning lines, but it looks good. So don't worry about having lots of mark making if you're into pencil drawing like that. Just build and build and get that texture, because the texture is so interesting. Thank you, Chrysanth. Appreciate it. That's a piece I finished pretty recently. All right. Sometimes I need to recognize, okay, what? I'm just mark making. I'm just spinning my wheels. What do I want to do next? Let's see. It's kind of hard for me to visualize right now how the scales are laying. But if I think about the shadow that they make, it helps a little bit. Okay. Sometimes you just gotta like grab onto whatever comes. So I can pretty clearly see this texture here on her snout. It's kind of reptilian. So I'm gonna go with that. The whole image doesn't come at once. It comes in like little bits and pieces, in glimpses. And then sometimes I'll think about the attachment point. Well, how does it attach? And then that can kind of like help me figure out what the rest of it looks like. So here I'm like imagining her neck, and then this little circle here is like kind of the footprint of her scale. Like, does the footprint of her scale look like that? Does it kind of come out almost like a fingernail, right? Or is it like a chunkier footprint? I guess if it's a scale, it has to be flat like that. So I don't erase often, but sometimes I do. So let's kind of do that. And then I can, actually, let me switch back to my 3H for this because this is getting a little bit dark. So our scales are gonna kind of lie a little bit like that, and they're gonna kind of go, they have to follow the contours of her neck. So now I can kind of that. All right, guys, I might be quiet for a minute. I'm gonna concentrate a bit. Don't mind me. I'm just going into my head. I'll be right back. I'm gonna look up some reptiles. I want to see if there are any reptiles that have scale-like projections that come out, like in kind of a thick, chunky way. To see if I have a reference for how to draw these protruding scales. I don't know. Let's look at bearded dragons. Bearded dragons. Oh, actually, all right. I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna show you guys an image. Done. A much rounder footprint, and they kind of slowly turn into these little horny Okay. Sorry, guys. I can adjust that later. The transition music. Actually, maybe I can. No, I'll worry about that later. Okay, so I'm looking at this bearded dragon. Was it the music from the transition? I've got some music playing in my headphones. Was it just the transition music? It's not the other one coming through, is it? Okay, well, hopefully that's okay. I think okay, I think I'm getting a little bit too into the weeds with the scales. I can always figure that out later. Um, let's do some drawings of her posture, her position. Let's see. Bring this down a little bit so you guys can see. So I almost like to draw like little cartoons at first. Here are some shoulder blades. Here's the neck coming out. Yeah, Alaska, Jeff. I can totally see that. I think that good art just takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of iteration, and it's a little bit worrisome, like in this day and age where, you know, there's so much like fast AI art and just fast low quality art available. Like, who will pay for that stuff? Hopefully there are institutions, and there are people, you know, just like how you know, you can still find somebody to make you a bespoke suit or a custom piece of furniture. Hopefully there will still be people who appreciate the art form enough to pay for something done the old-fashioned way. So I'm kind of picturing she's got this like little claw. Here is her. Her rib cage is here. But the truth is, nobody knows. Us fellow artists, like, it's going to be a very interesting next couple of decades to see how the landscape shifts. You know, especially the kind of art that I do. I do very detailed work, and paintings will take months, and that's kind of the way it's always been. Maybe behind the hill, she's kind of like that, right? So we've got these ribs here, and then dragons kind of have like a little narrow. And then here we have leg bones. It's okay, Alaska Jeff. I'll rant with you. Maybe not. Let's keep the stream positive. Maybe I won't rant. But it's wonderful. Thank you to the folks at Legend Seeker for supporting independent artists. You guys are awesome. Thank you for sticking with me as I slowly develop this work. It's an absolute dream to work with passionate storytellers. So just got, and I kind of had, you know, I had her head kind of looking that because I liked the composition line, how the motion of the head just kind of angles toward the Rudy Poos almost. I'm not sure I want to change that, but we can doodle around. Yeah, WY Circus Freak. I think you're right about that. I think that there are, I don't know, like I kind of think about historically. Um, I think about like the historic place of art in the labor market. It used to be hundreds of years ago, very few people were artists because artists being an artist required a patron, and it required an education, and almost like a status that weren't afforded to most people. And then we kind of had almost a golden age of art accessibility in the last like 40 years, maybe even 50 years, where people were becoming more educated, and media and entertainment were becoming so widespread that there was a really big need for it. You know, and now media and entertainment are even more widespread than ever, but automation is probably going to take a lot of those middle jobs away. It's really hard to see how things are going to go. So there has always been a need for art and artisans. The question is just like how much can the market hold? No, just that. Okay, so let's do that. I wanted to experiment with her head shape a little bit. So what if she's actually kind of like that? Like a yawn? I don't know. Thank you, Erudai, for the mod status. I actually kind of initially read that as God status. I'll take it. God mode. So I like the cross arms thing because that kind of indicates that she was just sleeping. I want to find a way to work that in. I don't know. Or maybe she can have a little arm that's kind of like that. Like that's just getting up. Yeah, I think musicians are certainly feeling the pinch now too. There's so much automated AI music as well. And for some instances, that will be good enough. Right? For some people, I don't know, but it's not going to replace. I can't see that replacing people's favorite artists. I don't know. So maybe she's got an arm that's kind of like that. That's like just getting up. Right? So we have this like little. Erudai, is that true? Have you been making AI songs? All right. I'm just thinking about what I want to explore next. I kind of I want to explore that tree, that giant tree with the buildings, the castle ruins underneath, or the building ruins underneath for scale. So let's look at willow trees. I don't think willows are going to be the right shape, but they are very pretty. I want something with a really big trunk. Oh, like you guys know the baobab tree from like the Lion King? Those have really cool trunks. They're kind of like fat trunks. Tree? Maybe we can combine some shapes and we can make something that looks really mythic. Yeah. Baobab tree. But those might be like a little bit too distinctive. Yeah, that's a really chunky trunk. I don't know if that's gonna work. All right. But let's just get some tree shapes down. I think it would be really fun. Okay. I've got a reference here of a baobab tree. So here with my 3H, I'm just gonna do like the gestures. Ugh, I'm drawing that too close to my. Watch where you're drawing, Effie. I'm drawing that too close to my mountain. Let's go down here a little bit. And I'm actually gonna put this. Sorry to cover the dragon. I'm just gonna rest my hand there. So the trunk is like kind of wide like that. And then we have branches coming out almost like they're like almost horizontal branches like that. Right. And these little branches coming out almost kind of horizontal. And then we have like these. See that? We're not necessarily going to draw a baobab tree for the final tree, but I'm just trying to get some inspiration. I want a tree that looks really mythic and magical, you know? So I'm looking for shapes that naturally occur, that are real, that maybe I can kind of Frankenstein some trees, some tree parts together and have it look really awesome. Okay. This trunk is kind of going to look like that. You guys see that? And I want to get that ancient feeling, and these trees definitely have. I think it's Thailand too, actually. And they're really fun. You jump kind of around the tree and kind of jump on the roots and see if you could make it all the way around. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Buffering is getting worse. Okay, hold on. Stuttered for a bit, but then we're back. Okay, let me close some programs. Maybe it's my computer. I have a lot open. Sorry. Close, quit, quit, quit. Yeah, I don't know what ong back is. Yeah, okay. We can look that up. Everything looking good now? Everything looking good now? The leaf shape matters too, like the cluster shape matters as well. Everything has an emotional impression, like the shape of things carry with them emotional impressions. So one of your jobs as an artist is to figure out how things feel and how and what they say beyond just being what they are. So a tree is just not a tree. You know, trees can have I sound like Bob Ross. Happy little tree. Oh Lord. Trees can be happy little trees, you guys. And they can also be sad little trees. And they can also be imposing and grand and they can be frightening. They can be skeletal. So I kind of like this tree does look really cool. We'll see. Let's look at some oaks now. Next. Let me just get a little bit more delineation here. Of these branches. I'm just trying to get a feel, you know? Not trying to draw anything super detailed today. That will come later in a different stream. But we have this question for Chrysanth and Erudai. Is Viridithra guarding this tree? And why? Jensen, this is actually what I'm drawing. I'm actually drawing a baobab tree. It's one of the coolest looking trees I know. They are very weird and very interesting. Next, we're going to do an oak. And why is she guarding the tree? Understanding her motivations can actually affect the shape of the tree. All right. You know what? Just for funsies, because I really like this tree, I'm going to get some darker shapes in there. Make it like a... He has a rivalry with a black dragon who wants to corrupt the elven forests. So this is an elven tree. I mean, you could have guessed that from the size. Yes. Love me a good elven magic tree. Okay, we can move on. I want to cover as much ground as I can today. Let's look for an oak tree. I don't think willows are going to work because they have... the leaves are really cool, but I don't know. The leaves are pretty cool on a willow tree. Let's search old willow tree. Like a weeping willow. And it's really important if you guys are looking at reference, that you don't use other people's drawings as reference unless you absolutely have to. It's much better to find images of the real thing. Okay, cool. I found this really cool picture. It's only of the trunk of the tree, but it's a very old weeping willow. And it's kind of gnarled. It almost looks kind of warty. That's pretty cool. A Gibbs oak tree. Oh, sorry, Dragon Noodle Soup. I thought that was like a proper tree name, like the Gibbs oak tree. I think you're actually saying give me oak tree. Old oak tree. And yeah, the oak trees are cool because they have those like really sprawling branches that kind of they go all in all directions. They almost look like tentacles. Hmm. Ah, nerve. Open image in new tab. Oh, that's a tiny image. King Darth Dave, um, for for real life inspiration for dragons, it's best to look at reptiles. Lots of reptiles, bearded dragons, Komodo dragons, um, skinks, lizards. Obviously, you know, dragons. Dragons aren't real, but taking as much inspiration from, oh, dinosaurs. For one of my paintings, I actually looked at um, T-Rex skulls. I looked at dinosaur skulls to try to find a um, good shape for the dragon's head. I mean, dinosaurs are basically dragons, or were. Okay, I think I found a promising image of an oak tree. Sorry, this is taking so long, guys. We got like 30 minutes. Okay. Switch back to my 3H so I can just kind of sketch this thing out lightly. All right, here's oak tree. This oak tree has a very, let's see, guys. I'm gonna make sure that you guys can see. Okay, I'm in a good spot. Let's get the gesture. I might draw a little bit on this island, but that's okay. Let's draw over here. We have all this space over here. Let's draw over here. And when I do the gestures, I'm just going really, really lightly with a pencil, and I'm just trying to like capture the movement of the tree. So, oh yeah, this is a great tree. This would be the ultimate climbing tree if you were a kid. See, these branches are going everywhere. And I love how it's this particular reference I'm looking at is covered in the oak tree is covered in some sort of ivy or another plant. It's got lots of knots. It's got this branch that's kind almost to the ground, actually. I really like that. I've seen that actually in the South. I went to Savannah one time, and they have so many great trees like this in Savannah. You guys, I don't know how clearly you guys can see that. Let me make it a little bit darker. I'm gonna make my gestures a little bit darker so you guys can see. Just trying to get this like movement here. There's like a little tiny roots that kind of come out like that. Good night, Cajun Corey. Thanks for joining. Thank you very much. All right. I also really like the texture on this trunk. That'll be really fun to paint. The baobab tree has almost a very smooth skin-like trunk, but this oak tree. I'm gonna switch over to my HB just so we can start getting this out. The oak tree is almost like carved. It has these. Here's a like a knot, right? And then we have this like. I'm going to use the side of my pencil here actually to try to get some of these textures. These kind of. Do you see that? Chrysanthus is another thing that you can't do with the digital stylus. Is like just take the side of the pencil and just carve out these like really dark, carve things out, you know? And then you can kind of go like that. Page a little bit. I really like the way that feels. It's got so we can almost like that. There's like a hole in the trunk right here. We're gonna have here some leaves. You can kind of draw this in. So this is just with my HB pencil. And if I'm like really feeling it, I can just jump in with this. If I'm unsure, I can go from I can very gradually build it up from dark to light, but I'm just feeling this tree. You see that? Let's get some shadows under there. There's another knot here. Shadow. Texture here. Oak has a lot of personality, Dragon Noodle Soup. I agree. Alaska Jeff, it depends on the complexity of the drawing. I'll show you the one that I showed you earlier. So this drawing, I would say probably took me about maybe 10 hours. Maybe it was less, maybe 10 to 12 hours to render everything. I had already done a comp, it's basically like a digital rough, where I kind of stitch some things together as my reference, and doing that saves a lot of time because I don't do any guesswork when I'm at the actual drawing stage. It's just the drawing. I figure everything out beforehand. But I would say once I do this, after this research stage, and I'm actually just doing the drawing, it can be 10 to 20 hours depending on how big the image is. And there are also going to be some things that I figure out in the drawing stage as well that I just didn't get in the research stage, stuff that I've missed. So sometimes I'll just like stop for a second and I'll pull another piece of paper and I'll doodle something that I need to figure out. I'm really kind of feeling this. And let me try to get some of this foliage that's kind of covering. It's almost like, it's like a kind of ivy. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it's kind of growing on the tree like this. Right? These are the bunches of leaves right here. I'll just draw the big shape first, lightly, and then I'll go in and fill it in. These leaves are just, I'm really kind of feeling this oak tree, you guys, for our magic tree. We'll see. I might change my mind tomorrow, but it's got a lot of personality, like Dragon Noodle Soup said. Right? Yes, King Darth Dave. The mechanical pencil comes in at a different stage, actually. So I use the mechanical pencils too. I use these Staedtlers 925s, and these are fantastic mechanical pencils. When I'm using the it's really weird. It's interesting to explain. Like, well, you know how they say that when you use a tool long enough, eventually it becomes an extension of your brain. And it's the same for like whether it's a pencil or a bicycle or like a car or something like that, right? Your brain actually incorporates it into, into itself. And so the different kind of pencils I use have a different purpose. So it has like, so with these pencils, where I can kind of do carving, it does a very specific thing. Like I'm trying to explain. It's really helpful for feeling out texture and like just kind of like getting in there. And when I switched over to a mechanical pencil, let's switch over to a mechanical pencil and see what happens. See if I can describe it. When I switch over to a mechanical pencil, it's almost like because it's it's such a detail thing, I almost get into the details more. So I start to see the details in my reference more. And I start to see things that I didn't see before as well. I don't know. It takes longer to draw with a mechanical pencil. So my brain goes into different modes depending on what pencil I'm using. Where is my HB? There you are. All right. And if I'm using charcoal, I haven't used charcoal in a long time, probably not since college. But when I was doing anatomy classes and we were drawing on really big pieces of paper, just holding the charcoal on the side and just kind of like going like this, like I can kind of, it was very easy to like get the contours of the figure when I was using the side of the charcoal. I couldn't, if I was trying to draw like this, I wouldn't be able to do it. More of the way you use the side of the lead on the sharp pencil versus more at the tip. Yes, exactly. They just accomplish different things. When I do the final drawing, I'll be using my mechanical pencil for a really big portion of it to get all those details in. All right. Just switch here. Get some leaves in there. Trees have very small leaves. Compared to the trunk, it's almost like a spray, like a mist of leaves. Wispy. these little branches in there like that. Right, I think we have 15 minutes. And I've spent a lot of time on this tree. I was just super into it. Let's see if there's anything else we can work on today. Hmm. Maybe we can do some doodles. I really wanted to see. Really wanted to see how this tree would look with some like ruins by it. So let's just do that really fast. We'll do a kind of a maybe not too big, kind of cartoony. I'm going to copy this oak tree that I drew a little bit. Just this little tree, this branch here. Right. Let's look at our rough again. Okay, so in both of these, this tree is creating a massive shadow, right? We could have some of those oak branches going down next to the cap. That would be very interesting. I'm just trying to figure out if the shape of the tree is going to have any impact on, I guess, on the stuff around it. I don't think it will. I think we're good. So we're going to have a little tree. Happy little tree. And then Erudia gave me a reference image. Let me just pull that up real fast. And it's how big the tree is next to a castle. So I'm just going to let me just pull that up real fast. Scrolling. There we go. Okay. So, according to this reference image, the tree here is super kid style tree. Is like this big. The castle is gonna be like right here. Right. This is how big a castle would be. I'm guessing this is kind of how big a person would be. You see that little is a door. This is the door. No, I think it's bigger than that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah. And then the dragon is gonna be like supposed to be like this big. Smiling dragon. So we might have to fudge with some of these sizes to get the composition right. But yeah, this tree is really big. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 times as tall as a heap, basically. That's a big tree. So looking at this, let's see if we. So we might have to adjust the size of this tree. I might even make it a little bit taller here than what it is in the rough. I might make it taller in the final, so that the size of the dragon makes sense and the size of the castle makes sense. Because right now, she looks way big. She looks as big as the tree or even bigger. So we'll have to figure that out. That's one of the things to problem solve. But it's also true that sometimes you have to bend the rules to make for a good composition. So we'll see. We'll see what we can do. I haven't checked chat in a while. Let's see. Oak up. Dragon Noodle Soup says oak occupies enough space that they stick out from the rest of the woods and are often in a bit of a clearing, standing out from the backdrop. So they are kind of divas. I agree. Oak tree is like center stage. It's a center stage kind of tree. King Darth Dave, I have tried using my son's crayons. It's not bad, actually. I kind of thought about doing something with crayons just to see, just for lulz, to see if I could. They're very waxy. They're hard to layer, but they are fun. Dragon Noodle Soup says, look up strangler fig. We should do that. Strangler fig. We should do that. We should look up a strangler fig. Strangler. Let's see what that looks like. And the shape looks really cool too. Like the overall shape of the leaves looks really cool. Let's see. She could also be sleeping somewhat forward of the tree and thus closer. She could. Yeah, I'll probably play around with that a little bit more. Just making sure everything works in the composition. It's tricky because she has to be on the front cover, and there are a lot of different elements that are competing. So I thought that by having the tree on the back, it wouldn't compete with the dragon in the front. But we could try that. It could be if I just make the tree way bigger, closer, we can keep her the same size. And then at this in wants to make candles. So yeah, they could smudge. They could smudge probably pretty well. Cool. Right. I'll keep doodling here for a little bit longer. Let's see if we can sketch out that idea that I was just talking about, where we just kind of have. Let's see. Can you guys see this? Okay. We just kind of have it would be kind of like this. So like this would be the book cover. This would be the center line. Right. Would be ocean, rocks, fjord, cavern. And then I can have the tree kind of center stage like that, right? This could work, right? And then we could have the dragon sleeping or waking up. That dragon's position wouldn't have to change very much. Here would be the water. So the dragon could be here. I kind of like that actually, because then the tree is much more massive. And then we could still have like the castle ruins. But I guess the only tricky thing there is that the island is making the island look like it's far enough away, which we might be able to do just with contrast, with like having it be low contrast. And maybe I can or maybe I can make the castle a little bit smaller. I don't know. Maybe I can put a dock, like the ruins of a dock. That maybe I can put smaller real trees. I can do that. We can do like, okay, this is what an actual pine would be. Little pine forest. Can you guys see that okay? Maybe bring it up a little bit. This is just like a little sketch. That could totally work. And then I can actually just push these fjords a little bit to the side. We'll see. I'd like for this kind of fjord area, the foreground, to be dark. So I was envisioning the cliffs on the side just kind of obscuring a lot of light. So we will see. I can play around with the sizing. This would be like the banks of the fjord. Oh, our frost! I didn't know that. I didn't know you could use acetone to melt the crayons a little bit. That's cool. I'll have to give that a try. In the Arfrost says in the Godlin's lore, elven Lamath trees do have vines that grow in them that produce wild grapes. So vines. So maybe is this an elven Lamath tree? Must be. So there should be some viney element there. I mean, there would be anyway because I want it to look really old. But can you guys see that? Is that dark enough? So here we're just gonna, here's the before, here's the rough, and I have the tree kind of on the side. But here, I'm thinking we might just make the tree massive. We just bring everything kind of front and center. And then the dragon will be on the front. And there she is, crossing her little kitty cat dragon paws. Not necessarily, but maybe she's kind of sleeping around the tree. And we can have trees for scale, tree, hills in the background for scale. Maybe even, I don't know, some sort of like, maybe like the tree is growing around an outcropping of rock, like a hill. And then here we would put the castle ruins or something. Okay. All right, I think that looks pretty cool. Pretty good. And of course, our adventurers, a boat would be here, right? Here's person number 1, person number 2. And here would be the rocks. Yeah, that could totally work. There's a lot going on in this image, but because this area, the background, is going to be pushed back, it's not going to be very detailed, and it's going to be pretty desaturated because it's in the distance. Then we can still have all this stuff in an image. And the main, I would say, the main narrative, or the main focal point, I should say, will be on the characters here. So what I'm thinking is, the first narrative is the first thing I want you to see when you look at this image are these characters, right? And there's going to be something, and then secondarily, I want you to notice the dragon in the background. And then third, I want you to turn the book cover over and see this is what caused the commotion in the foreground to begin with. So I think this is we have a pretty strong concept, and yeah, can't wait to see how it turns out. Okay, everybody, it is time for coffee and breakfast for me because I'm on the other side of the planet. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today, for watching me draw. It's really fun. It's really fun to doodle on stream with you guys. So the next stream, I think, will be in a couple of weeks. Since I finished the rough, I finished the rough, and then I'm going to be doing more of these exploratory drawings, and then hopefully by the next time we meet, I will have started on the final drawing for this one. I'm going to take us, Rudy and I are working on the concept for book 3 as well. I don't know when we will show that to you, but we want to get that out of the way. So I'm going to take a quick detour, maybe for a week or so, to explore what that's going to look like and come up with something like that looks like this, so that we have the concepts for book 2 and book 3 done, and then we just have to draw them and paint them. No small feat, but thank you very much for tuning in. See you guys next time, and bye.